I turned 90 last spring, and my doctor asked me what my secret was. I told him I have never stopped moving. He laughed. He thought I meant exercise. I did not mean exercise. I meant something much bigger than that. I meant that the moment you stop having a reason to get up in the morning, something inside you starts quietly shutting down. And nobody warns you about that. Nobody puts that in the pamphlets. I have watched it happen to people I loved. Good people, strong people. People who spent their whole lives being capable and purposeful and necessary. And then one day they stopped, because they were told to stop, because society decided they were done, because retirement arrived, or the children left, or the job ended, or the body slowed. And within a year or two of stopping, they were gone. Not dead, not yet, but gone in the way that matters. The light behind the eyes, the lean forward quality of a person who is interested in what comes next. Gone. I am not going to let that happen to me. And I am not going to sit here quietly and let it happen to you either. I want to tell you about my friend Vivian. Vivian and I met in 1978 at a church committee meeting, and we were friends for over 40 years. Vivian was one of those women who ran everything without anyone quite noticing she was running it. The fundraisers, the neighborhood watch, the school board meetings, the casserole that appeared on your doorstep 2 hours after something went wrong in your life. Vivian was the connective tissue of every community she was part of, the person who knew everyone and remembered everything and showed up without being asked. She retired from her job at 62, and her children moved to different cities, and one by one, the committees and the organizations she had always been part of wound down or changed or needed younger people. And slowly, without anyone intending it, Vivian ran out of things to run. I watched it happen over about 3 years. At first, she seemed to enjoy the rest. She redecorated her house. She read the books she had always meant to read. She said she was finally catching her breath. And then the breath just kept going, and there was nothing coming in behind it. She stopped calling as often. When I visited her, she seemed smaller somehow. Not thinner exactly. Smaller in the way a fire gets small when there is nothing left to burn. She told me once, sitting in her kitchen on a bright Tuesday afternoon with nowhere to be, that she felt like a clock that was still ticking, but no longer connected to anything. She said she did not understand the point of the ticking anymore. Vivian's datebook was still on her kitchen counter. She had kept a datebook her entire adult life, filled it cover to cover every year with the dense handwriting of a woman who was needed in 17 places at once. The one on the counter was nearly empty. 2 doctor appointments and a birthday reminder for a grandchild. That was it. That was the whole month. I looked at that datebook and I felt something shift in my chest. The way you feel when you recognize something you have been afraid to name. She had not lost her health. She had not lost her mind. She had lost her sense of being necessary. And it was taking everything else with. Vivian passed at 79. Younger than she should have. Her doctor said her body simply declined faster than it should have for someone with her physical health. I believe it. I believe that the body follows the spirit in these things, that when the spirit stops having somewhere to go, the body starts making its own arrangements, and those arrangements are not ones any of us would choose. Now here is what I want you to understand about busyness, because I know what you are thinking. You are thinking she is just talking about staying occupied, keeping your mind active, the usual advice about puzzles and grandchildren and gentle walks in the morning. That is not what I am talking about. I am talking about something with more weight than that. I am talking about the difference between filling time and feeding purpose. Busyness for its own sake, the frantic, anxious, distracted kind that will not save you. I am not recommending that. What I am recommending is engagement, the specific, living, irreplaceable feeling of being woven into the world around you in a way that means something would be different if you were not there. That is what keeps people alive. Not literally, not always, but in every way that makes being alive worth the effort. I have seen the evidence of this my entire life. I grew up watching women in my community who were busy in the right way, not overwhelmed, but purposeful. Women who had people counting on them and things they were building and problems they were solving. And those women were sharp and present and genuinely alive well into their 80s and 90s. And I watched the ones who stopped, who withdrew, who decided they had done their part and now it was time to simply wait. And the waiting aged them faster than anything else I ever saw. Faster than illness, faster than loss. The waiting was the most dangerous thing. I have watched this across my entire lifetime. I watched it in the generation before mine. Women who raised their families and then found themselves in their 60s with their whole identity removed overnight when the last child left home. And nobody had ever prepared them for who they were supposed to be without that role. I watched it in my own generation. Women who worked and built and contributed, and then retired into a silence that nobody had told them would be that loud. And I am watching it now, in a world where busyness has become something people are trying to escape, where rest and doing nothing have been elevated into a kind of aspiration, where hustle culture and quiet quitting are having a war. And nobody is asking the deeper question, which is not, how much should I do? But what should I do that makes me feel like myself? Because here is the truth about staying busy that nobody tells you. It is not about the activity. It is about the identity underneath the activity. When you are engaged in something that matters to you, something that uses who you actually are, something that connects you to other people or to an idea larger than your own comfort, you are not just passing time. You are maintaining yourself. You are keeping the architecture of your selfhood from going soft. And that matters at every age, but it matters most at the end, when the world starts quietly suggesting that you have already had your turn. I am 90 years old, and I teach a reading circle at my local library every Thursday morning. 7 women, all younger than me, and we sit around a table and we argue about books, and it is the most alive I feel all week. Not because reading is particularly vigorous exercise, because those 7 women expect me to show up, because the conversation is different when I am in it, because there is a chair at that table with my name on it, figuratively, and the week has a shape because of it. Purpose does not have to be grand. It does not have to change the world. It just has to be real. It just has to mean something to someone, even if that someone is only you. I also write letters, real letters, on paper, with a pen. I have been writing them for 60 years, and I am not stopping now. My handwriting has gotten worse, and my hands take longer to cooperate. But I write them anyway because there are people who expect an envelope with my handwriting on it, and that expectation is a thread connecting me to the living world, and I will not cut it voluntarily. My granddaughter calls it old-fashioned, and I tell her that old-fashioned is just another way of saying it works. Here is what I want you to take from this, and I want you to actually take it, not just nod at it and go back to whatever you were doing. If you are young and reading this, build things now that will still need you later. Not just financial things, not just career things, but relational things, community things, the kind of investments that pay dividends in belonging rather than money. Because the loneliness of old age is not primarily about being alone. It is about being unnecessary. And you can prevent that. But you have to plant those seeds before the season changes. And if you are older, if you are in the years where things are winding down, and the calendar is getting quieter, and the world is gently suggesting that your contribution has been made and your shift is over, I am telling you with everything I have, do not believe it. Find the Thursday morning. Find the 7 women around the table. Find the letter that needs writing, and the problem that needs your specific history to solve, and the person who would sit up straighter if you walked into the room. Find the thing that makes you lean forward, because leaning forward is how you stay here. Leaning forward is how you tell your body every single morning that there is still something worth waking up for. Vivian deserved more Thursdays. She deserved more date books filled to the margins. I think about her when I sit down at that library table every week. I think about the light that was in her when she was running things, and the quiet that came in when the running stopped. And I think, not today. Not me. Not yet. I have letters to write. I have a reading circle on Thursday. I have 7 women who are going to argue with me about a book I loved, and they did not, and I cannot wait. Stay busy, my darling. Stay wonderfully, purposefully, meaningfully busy. It is not a distraction from living. It is the living.